Hey everybody, Eric here for, what did I even call this stream? I don't even remember what I called it. Something like looking ahead, coming soon 2023, something like that. Anyway, you can see over my head, we're going to be looking at 83 different games today. So a small criteria thing. Kind of wish I had my tablet with me now. I'm going to get my tablet. All right, fine, fuck it. I'm gonna have to go with the. I'll be right back. As soon as I figure out where. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. I thought my tablet was within reach, but it wasn't. But it is now. Anyway, so today, or for today's stream, we're going to be looking at 83 games that are coming soon to 2023. I didn't want to... Or you might be thinking, why so many games? Lots of other websites you might be seeing are only doing 25 or 15 or something like that. And that's because you can pretty much just name all of those games, like right off the top of your head, I feel. Whereas all of these games, I don't think you could somehow name 83 separate games off the top of your head. But anyway, we're going to go fairly rapid fire through them because 83 is a lot of games. So you might as well get started. So let me full screen this. And we'll get started with the very first title. So what is our desktop audio situation like? So I'm going to let the trailer music play in the background just so you guys have it. Hopefully it's not too loud. Let me know if it is. Anyway, this is Vengeful Guardian Moonrider. This is going to be developed by Joy Masher, who previously are known for Odalis The Dark Call, which is also a similar side-scrolling... So Odalis was kind of a Metroidvania type game, whereas Vengeful Guardian Moonrider seems like it's going to be more of a throwback to Shinobi style things. There is a demo for it currently on Steam if you want to check it out. It plays a lot like Cyber Shadow, which came out recently enough. Vengeful Guardian Moonrider is set for release on the 12th of January. And will be coming to PC, PS4, PS5, and Switch. Outside of that, the next game we'll be looking at is called A Space for the Unbound. This is from Toj Productions, and is also developed by Mojiken Studio. Previous game would have been When the Past Was Around. This will be coming out on pretty much everything. On the 19th of January. A Space for the Unbound is a slice of life title, where it has you and your female friend who has some kind of supernatural abilities that lets them kind of be transported to different planes of existence and stuff like that, which isn't really coming up in the trailer all that much because they're mostly focusing on the slice of life aspect of it. But that is the kind of idea behind it. There is a demo on Steam if you want to check it out. There's also a prologue, kind of mini game, but it's kind of like what happens between these two on, their last. I think it's their last or their second last year of school or something like that. Next up is Forspoken. Forspoken is scheduled for release on the 24th of January, so pretty soon, and it will be exclusive to PlayStation 5 and PC. I'm gonna reduce the audio again. I'm not sure how quiet that is for you guys now, but anyway. This is going to be developed by Luminous Productions. Now, Luminous Productions are a sub-developer inside Square Enix. This is technically their first game under the heading of Luminous Productions, but they have been responsible for things like Final Fantasy 14. Sorry, not 14, 15. They're also the guys behind, if you may recall, the Luminous engine. Kind of... Sorry, the trailer talking in the background is throwing me off. But there was a Luminous engine thing that was shown off years ago. It was before the PS4 even came out. But yeah, they've been working on this kind of tech for a really long time. There's a demo of Forspoken on the PlayStation Store. I don't see one on PC at the moment. Maybe it's an Epic Games thing, but I haven't seen it. The demo was interesting. Frey has a lot of different abilities at her disposal, a lot of different magical spells. The parkour aspect to it, the free running thing, is somewhat mindless in the demo, just because I don't think you have access to a lot of the abilities yet. To be honest, I'm a little bit worried about how much actual gameplay is in the game. It does look like it's one of those games that is just a big map and there's just a lot of mini things to do in it. You know, it's very Ubisoft open world kind of thing.
You've seen this stuff before?
I don't know how to feel about it. I'm still going to play it, but anyway. I'm not really sure how to feel about it myself. Moving on. We have the Dead Space remake. So Dead Space. The Dead Space remake is scheduled for the 27th of January, and it will be PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. So it's complete current gen stuff. So none of the previous gens will be involved. This is being made by EA Motive, or Motive Studios, if you prefer. EA Motive are the people who made a lot of them recent dogfighting games. Star Wars Squadron, in particular. I think they were involved in Star Wars Battlefront? Battlefront is Star Wars, right? And Battlefield is not Star Wars. But anyway, the developer EA Motive have been pretty upfront about what they're doing in the remake. They've been showing off a lot of just dev diary stuff and just giving you like nice behind the scenes, some new technology they have. The Xenomorphs actually have a whole like skin system now as well. There's also a completely free-form zero gravity section. So previously in the original Dead Space, zero gravity was locked to very specific areas of the game. For memory reasons, more or less, but now in the Dead Space remake, zero gravity is just everywhere. It's carried across a lot of different rooms. You can nearly fly to different areas of the game. The whole tram system in the original Dead Space was essentially your moving from chapter to chapter thing. It's a loading screen, more or less. In the Dead Space remake, that's not the case anymore. You can somewhat zero-G yourself all the way over to the next area of the game if you wanted to. Anyway, that's a Dead to Space. What are we moving on to now? Okay. So we have Season, A Letter to the Future. So considerably slower pace type games. Season is a kind of documentary encyclopedia type game. You're this person cycling around this fairly large map where they can come across a lot of opportunities to catalog things, to like record audio of things, record photographs, record different creatures that are in the area and that kind of thing. It's that sort of game. It's very laid back. The entire gist of the game is that you are effectively cataloging the world at this stage before some cataclysm is on its way or something like that, or the world is winding down or something like that to that level. Season is scheduled for the 31st of January, which might be a placeholder date. On the other hand, it might actually be that date, and it's coming out on everything. Sorry, no, it's not. It's coming out on PlayStation consoles and PC. It's developed by Scavenger Studio. Their previous game, The Darwin Project, was not great. So hopefully this one will turn out a little bit better. Scavenger Studios had possibly still have a reputation of not a particularly nice place to work. They were up in the news recently about harassment allegations and stuff like that. So hopefully that has been ironed out before the game actually gets going and gets released. We're not sure if that'll actually happen though. Anyway, we're gonna move into, unfortunately I do not have a nice way to change this, so I'm just gonna have to actually type it in. But we're moving into February. The next game we're going to be looking at is Deliver Us Mars. So Deliver Us Mars is the follow-up to Deliver Us the Moon. We played Deliver Us the Moon on the channel, full Let's Play, where we were sent to the moon to essentially jumpstart this energy supply system that Earth had created because Earth had pretty much run out of resources. So we were cultivating solar energy. Big solar gun would shoot the energy down to Earth, and then Earth would be able to use it. And something went wrong. We had to go and figure out what's going on. And what we did find is that the people who were sent to the moon, who were living up there and were responsible for maintaining the energy system, decided to fuck off to Mars and not tell us. Just left everyone on Earth to die. So Deliver Us Mars is essentially following them to see what, why did you leave? What have you found here that's so much better? And something like that. And then, like, personal story, the character here is the daughter of the guy who was head of this, the project on the moon kind of thing. So we'll be looking at that. Deliver Us Mars is the 2nd of February and is releasing on everything except the Switch. She'll not risk something. She'll not risk the mission, probably. Something like that. This is Blanc. This was shown off at a Nindies World showcase last year, maybe, year before. It's scheduled for release Valentine's Day, which is 14th of February, coming to PC and Switch. The developer is Casus Ludi, which means Game of Chance. This is their first game. Blanc is a co-op only title. One player takes the role of the fawn, one player takes the role of the wolf cub, and they have different abilities, different strengths, different weaknesses. The wolf cub, as you can see, can get through small openings. The fawn, being long-limbed and fairly light, can jump pretty high, whereas the wolf cub can't do that kind of thing. But the wolf cub is pretty strong, can pull a lot of things and such. So you're kind of having to work together, a bit like It Takes Two. A bit like A Way Out, that kind of deal. So you're working together to find your respective families, and I'm sure there'll be some bullshit at the end where the wolf family will want you to kill the fawn, and you'll have to not do that, or will have to do that, whatever way you want to look at it. That's scheduled for Valentine's Day. Another game scheduled for Valentine's Day is Wanted. Wanted Dead, I believe it's called. This is developed by Soleil, who are responsible for Valkyrie Elysium, which we looked at late last year. Valkyrie Elysium had some decent combat, but pretty much everything else about the game was fairly bland. Whereas this game, from what I've seen, the combat is fine. It's mostly the other trappings of the game look weird. And they look weird in a kind of grasshopper, Suda51 sweary kind of way, which I'm really digging. A lot of the community posts around this game have been really strange. The issue is that what I've seen of the actual gameplay has been kind of not great. So I don't know what we're going to think about this. But this is scheduled for Valentine's Day as well. And unlike Blanc, that is coming out on PC and Switch, Wanted Dead is coming out on everything except the Switch. Okay, then we have... Oops. Nice. Then we have Theatrhythm Final Bar Line, which I'm absolutely going to get content striked for, but here we are. Let me drop the audio down a little bit. I think I should drop my mic down, because it looks like I'm peaking a little bit. Alright, Theatrhythm Final Bar Line is another entry in the Theatrhythm series. The Theatrhythm series, as you can see, are a rhythm action music game, but specifically Final Fantasy music. Final Fantasy music, some of the best music in video games, some of the best known music in video games, so it makes sense that why wouldn't you just make an entire game out of that kind of thing? So they did. Teeth Rhythm Final Bar Line has pretty much every Final Fantasy in it. It doesn't quite have every single song, but it has a lot. It's like 300 and something songs. The previous Teeth Rhythms also had a good bit of DLC support, where they added in a lot of different games. There was stuff from Nier, there's stuff from Dragon Quest, there's stuff from Tales of Mana and stuff like that. So, not Tales of Mana, Secret of Mana, and that kind of thing. So I'm expecting much the same, but with like slightly nicer production values. Because I believe the last Teeth Rhythm was a DS title, whereas this will be a Switch title. So this will be Switch, PlayStation 4 and 5. And it's developed by the same people who made the last Teeth Rhythm, which was called Curtain Call. Moving on before I get too badly copyrighted. Wild Hearts. It's probably a bit too quiet now. Let me boost it up a little bit. Wild Hearts is from Koei Tecmo. And they're partnering with EA. So it's under their EA Originals thing. This is coming out on the 17th of February and will be available on current gen. So PC, PS5, Xbox Series. It's developed by... So it's Koei Tecmo are part of the publishing group, but it's Omega Force who are actually working on the game. So Omega Force are Dynasty Warriors people who make all of those slap 'em up games, 1 versus 1,000 kind of things. Wild Hearts is meant to be a kind of rival, if you like, to something like Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter doesn't have a rival currently, so it would be nice to see if it can push Monster Hunter to sort of change up its formula a little bit, or maybe they'll add some extra things to it. Some interesting things I've seen in Wild Hearts is that there is a bit of what I was thinking was the Fortnite kind of build on the run sort of thing, where you would just build platforms to get yourself some elevation and things like that, but it doesn't look like that's actually what's happening. I think it's more that you just have a loadout of different items that you can manufacture, and it's just that kind of thing. So you have a gliding thing, there's a bomb thing, there's a big hammer, I guess, looking thing, there's a catapult option as well, and that kind of thing. So Monster Hunter has these kind of things as well. It has like buildable installations, it has a grappling thing to get you onto the monster and stuff like that. So I guess we'll see, having a rival, how that works out. Anyway, that's Wild Hearts. Moving on, Atomic Heart. Atomic Heart's coming out 21st of February on everything except the Switch. Atomic Heart is developed by Mundfish. The last game they made was a VR title called Soviet Luna Park, which is sort of like a Soviet amusement park VR thing. Whereas Atomic Heart is very much not that, although it's clear they've learned some things from first-person stuff for VR. So they're going for what is kind of a Bioshock Doom thing. So it's very fast-paced first-person stuff, but you are like kind of in tandem with, you have powers on one hand, you have your gun on the other hand, which is very Bioshock. But it's set in this kind of false future, false Soviet USSR future, and there's some horrible shit going on there with the robots. Let's not look into it too far. I believe the premise is you're like sort of brought into this installation where the robots have gone nuts. You gain control over them with some sort of implant in your hand, which is why you're able to like lift them off the ground, fling them about the place and stuff like that. I don't think you specifically have telekinetic abilities. I think it's just that because they're robots, you could somehow interface with them to make them do things. I don't know. Atomic Heart's been coming out for fucking ages, so it's going to be interesting when it finally does come out to see what it actually plays like. Then we have Like a Dragon Ishin. So Ishin actually came out in Japan ages ago. And it wasn't set up for localization because both Sega and Ryogaga Toku Studios, who are the developer behind it, who make all the Yakuza games, didn't think people would care. Didn't think people out in the West would be interested in a feudal Japan historical set Yakuza game. They're very wrong about that, and they've realized they're very wrong about that and have decided to bring it out. So Like a Dragon Ishin is effectively Yakuza, but go back like a couple of 100 years. Like, it's that kind of thing. You are a Ronin who also has a gun. So your sword and gun and melee combat or unarmed combat and stuff like that. But otherwise, it's Yakuza. They're also reusing a bunch of the Yakuza characters and actors to sort of it's kind of almost like a period TV show anthology piece, which is kind of interesting as well, because you can see the main character, while he's not Kazuya Kiryu, he is absolutely using the same character model. That's Majima from Yakuza, but again, it's not him because it's a historical person. So it's going to be weird and interesting. But yeah, that will be out on the 21st of February. And then this next thing is more of a catch-all deal. So this is the PSVR 2. So the PSVR 2 is coming out on the 22nd of February. So this is more of a catch-all for all of the VR titles that are going to come out with it. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. Their flagship one is going to be a Horizon thing, Call of the Mountain. So it's effectively first-person archery. So what I'm hoping to see is, to be honest, I'm hoping to see a bunch of ports from Oculus, more or less, from the Meta Quest, or a bunch of PC VR titles. I'd love to see Half-Life Alyx on it and that kind of thing. The PSVR tech itself is quite impressive. It's quite a bit more than what you would get out of Oculus. It's absolutely leveraging the PS5 as a kind of PC. So it's a lot closer to PC VR than it is to mobile VR. And you could potentially argue it's in roughly the same price. You will need a PS5 to play it. And then you'll need a headset on top of it. So you're effectively paying about $1,000 if you take the console into account. But PC VR, you'd have to take the PC itself into account as well. So that would be like, $4,000 or something like that. So I don't know, whatever way to look at it. I'm going to get one anyway because I can't stop myself from buying these things. I'll do my best to show it off for other people to see what they think of it at the time. There isn't any particular game I'm looking forward to, though. Resident Evil in VR, because Resident Evil 7 in VR was really good. So Resident Evil 8 in VR, I'm kind of hoping for much the same deal. Okay, well, we are going to move on to the next one. So Octopath Traveler. Octopath Traveler 2 is coming out on the 24th of February on everything except Xbox. This is developed by Team Asano, so the same people behind Octopath Traveler 1 and Triangle Strategy, reusing the HD 2D thing that put them on the map in the first place. So really gorgeous HD artwork in the background, but then also this kind of pixel art effect for the characters and a kind of pixel art effect for some of the particle effects and stuff like that. It's gorgeous. Octopath Traveler was gorgeous. Triangle Strategy is gorgeous. Live Alive, Live Alive, whatever way you want to pronounce it, is also gorgeous. So it's 8 brand new characters. If you haven't seen or know anything about Octopath Traveler 1, it was effectively 8, I don't know why I'm doing this is only 5, 8 characters that had their own story. It was very much a turn-based JRPG thing where they would all go out and do their kind of thing. It was kind of a spiritual successor to Live Alive, and then Live Alive got its own HD remake. But that's kind of the idea. You have 8 different characters, they all do their own thing in the same world, and then they all meet up or sometimes cross over each other and stuff like that. But they all have somewhat have their own different type of gameplay, but it is roughly the same idea. They are all roughly going to be JRPG turn-based combat. And that will be out, as I said, on everything except Xbox. Next up, Darkest Dungeon 2. So, Darkest Dungeon 2 is currently in early access in Epic Games, so not in Steam, as a follow-up to Darkest Dungeon 1. However, the gameplay is considerably different. In Darkest Dungeon 1, you had a central location, your base, and you would branch out into different dungeons to sort of try to work your way through them. It had pseudo-roguelike elements to it, and that you could lose characters, and you would have to sort of recruit new characters and build them up again and send them out into dungeons and stuff like that. And it was mostly like attrition. You'd just be going through people, you know. It was like what do they call it? A corpse grinder kind of thing. Darkest Dungeon 2 still has roughly the same kind of combat, but the central theme of the game is different now because you are on the run. Not to go into spoilers for the ending of Darkest Dungeon, but it's bad end. Things don't end well in the game, and you are now on the run from this evil that has been unleashed in the manor, and you are collecting people along the way. But basically, you are on a mad dash to get away from this eldritch abomination. But you are being waylaid by, the hosts of hell and the abyss and what have you. Since it's an early access title, it has been changing a couple of times. But it will finally be released 1.0 at the end of February at some point. All I have here is February. Currently, it is exclusive to PC, but Darkest Dungeon OG has found itself on everything since then, so chances are it will do much the same this time. Okay. We are going to move ahead to the next month, so March now. So coming up in March, we have Wolong, Fallen Dynasty, coming out on the 3rd of March. We played a bit of this last year. We played the beta demo, if you want to call it that. It did have a bit of a Sekiro feel to it, and a lot of people were going like, this is Team Ninja's Sekiro type deal. So Team Ninja, at least the team that are working on this, Team Ninja's a big developer, so they work on a lot of things. But the team that would have worked on this were the team behind Neo, the team behind Stranger of Paradise, and that kind of thing. So they've been working on this one for quite a while. It is doing the Romance of the Three Kingdoms story period of Chinese history, where a lot of the states were splintered and they all sort of all met all at once and just big battle for unification of China. There's a long storied history novel series and everything about the whole thing. But this is very much a fantasy version of it. What we played in the... Sorry, I'm just going to put repeat on. It's hard to tell if that's actually on. What we played of the beta was really impressive. It does have some interesting mechanics it's adding. Unlike, we'll say, the Souls games and stuff like that, where you could largely ignore the vast majority of enemies if you wanted to. Like, you didn't have to fight them. A lot of time you can just run past them. Goodbye. In this game, you still can, but you benefit from killing them because killing enemies is what levels you up. You don't like collect points and then put them into your level. Actual combat itself is what boosts you up. There's a morale system as well, so that your allies grow in power the more of the battlefield you take over. So the more checkpoints you hit, the more bonfires you hit, that kind of thing. So if you're having difficulty with the boss, it might be because you haven't found every checkpoint in the level yet, or that kind of thing. So it's absolutely rewarding you for engaging with the game and not just running away from things. Whereas Sekiro in particular kind of rewarded you for not fighting, which is it's a weird way to go with it, because why would you make a game and then have me not fight anybody in it? But whatever. We'll see how it turns out, though. Because once again, Neo was in beta for a good while, and it changed like dramatically between betas. So there could be some changes this time around. Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon. This is effectively Bayonetta 4 or Bayonetta 0, whatever way you want to look at it. It's coming out 17th of March, exclusively to the Switch. Wolong was on everything except the Switch. So Platinum Games, last game they made was Bayonetta 3. This is kind of being seen as an apology for the ending of Bayonetta 3, but considering how far along the game is, this was in development long before Bayonetta 3 came out. So, no, it isn't, but you can take it that way if you like. Oh, sorry, I forgot to skip ahead. So this is going to play quite a bit different than the regular Bayonetas. As you can see, there's an isometric viewpoint. You are controlling, it seems, two characters at the same time. You're controlling Cereza, who is Bayonetta before she became Bayonetta. Cereza's her real name. And Cheshire, who is her kind of teddy bear cat, who grows into like a big monstrous thing. People who have played it, so people who have had preview builds of the thing, say it plays a bit like Okami, which feels like you're more directing Cheshire to attack rather than directly controlling him. I thought that perhaps they would use Astral Chain as a building block, because Astral Chain, you somewhat control two characters at once. I figured they were going to do the same thing here, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like it's going to play a little bit differently. But until we see actual gameplay, we probably can't say for different. So after Bayo, or Cereza, then we have Star Wars Jedi Survivor. It's also coming out same day, 17th of March, only for current gen titles. This is by Respawn Entertainment, who made the original and have been pretty much just deep in Apex Legends town for the last while. So I guess they've gotten a bit of a breather where they can work on another Star Wars game. So Fallen Order was okay. I did like... The combat was interesting, but the game itself was stuttery for me. It had some frame pacing issues that were ironed out. To be fair, were ironed out in the PS5 upgrade. So hopefully they've, taken whatever technology they had to do to make that work on board. I am curious why some characters are still alive, because they shouldn't be, considering how the game ended. So how they're going about doing this, I don't know. If you have played the original one, I don't want to spoilers it, but there's a really cool bit right at the end of the game, which almost makes up for some of the boredom in the early part of the game, because there's some really good bit happens right at the end of the game. It's a bit of a Rogue One ending kind of thing, that level of fan service almost. But yeah, some people should be dead. Anyway, that'll be out 17th of March. They have been showing off a lot of different abilities. It's kind of funny that Cal Kestis has all of these powers when he's like the weakest Jedi in video games, I think, out of all of them ever. Maybe Qui-Gon in like the Phantom Menace video game. He wasn't very strong on that, but otherwise, he's one of the weakest Jedi in video game, but somehow he has that laser bolt time stop thing, which seems like it would be crazy powerful. But anyway, moving on from Jedi Survivor, we have a Nice Death, which is currently in early access on Steam and is scheduled for 22nd of March to hit 1.0. This will be coming to PC and Switch. It's developed by Magic Design Studios, who previously made a game called Unruly Heroes, which I've never heard of. As you can see, Have a Nice Death, you play the Grim Reaper. He is CEO of Death Corp. And basically, for the last 1,000 years or so, he's just been allowing his underlings to just do the work. Collect souls, put them back into the afterlife, reincarnation, all that business. But business has been too good. And what I mean by that is that they have been going out of their way to kill people so that they can get their souls, so that they can keep the money coming in for Death Corp or something like that. So as the CEO of Death Corp, it is now your job to sort of rein them in and, restore the balance, not having so many people dying all the time kind of thing. But you can tell it's not really taking itself super seriously or anything like that. Anyway, let's Have a Nice Death. Where are we? Okay. Then we have Storyteller. Storyteller is currently has a demo on Switch. Or sorry, not on Switch, on Steam. I actually played it today. It's a lot of fun. It's a really good puzzle game. It's coming out on the 23rd of March for PC and Switch. It's developed by a single developer named Daniel Benmergui. And he has made actually a bunch of like web games. This would have been one of his first attempts at like console PC titles. So as you can see, you have a story to tell, and you have different pieces that you can slot into these sort of comic panels to tell the story. And depending on who you put into different areas, the story changes. And while you're asked to like pick a story or a story to add, you can mix and match them the way you want to and tell a different story and stuff like that. The demo has about 3 chapters with like, I think total it's like 12 different scenarios to try to make. It's good. It's like really a lot of fun and pretty varied. It seems to be going through mostly like fairy tale stuff. Anyway, that's coming out on, I can't read, 23rd of March. Okay. After that, we have a pretty significant game for next year. So this is one of the, if you're looking at, Kotaku, Polygon, IGN, whoever is doing their 15 games to look for in 2023, this is absolutely going to be on the list, along with, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, along with Dead Space Remake, Forspoken, like we looked at. Anyway, the Resi 4 remake. What's to be said about that? 24th of March, everything except everything except Switch and Xbox One for some reason. It is coming to PS4, but not Xbox One, which is an odd choice. Or I may have read it wrong, which is entirely possible. So this is developed by Capcom Dev Division 1. Again, Capcom is a giant developer. It is always difficult to figure out what team in particular is working on something. But Dev Division 1, as you might imagine, they're Division 1. They're the top-level developers for Capcom. They're the people behind all of the recent Resident Evil remakes and stuff like that. Resident Evil Village, that kind of thing. Anyway, Resi 4 remake, I don't even remember how long it's been since the original Resident Evil 4. We are currently playing through the whole series of Resident Evil at the moment, and I really want to play this when it comes out. But it absolutely does not fit into our schedule, so I don't know how I'm going to handle it. I don't know, I might just play it for a bit. I might just put it in the For a Bit series when it comes out, and then we'll get around to it as we're going through the Resident Evil series, and we'll do a full LP that time. But the story is changing a little bit. There are some sections that you see in the trailer, at least, that don't happen in the original game. The game itself seems to be set entirely at night, whereas the original started late in the afternoon. Also, this particular scene never happens in the original either, so that's going to be interesting to see. But moving on, after Resi 4 Remake, we have another remake, the System Shock remake. So, System Shock may be something that newer gamers may not be aware of. System Shock is effectively responsible for BioShock. It's responsible for Deus Ex. It's responsible for Deathloop, Dishonored, Prey, all of those kind of games. It was the first one to do this kind of thing. A first-person interactive sim. It's also... I'm not going to say it's responsible for the AI gone wrong deal, because that probably belongs to 2001: A Space Odyssey, but Shodan, who is the AI in question, who has taken over this space station and is merging humans and robots to make better creatures, is so evil. Super fucking evil. Like, HAL had this kind of just logic change, but you didn't really get the sense that he was actually evil so much as he was just following his programming. GLaDOS, you could argue, potentially is also following her programming, but has had some sort of logical leap. It just always felt like Shodan was specifically malevolently evil, cruel creature, AI, whatever. Anyway, this has a demo on Steam. This is also a Kickstarter project, which, disclosure, I have backed. So I'm hoping to show this off. Hopefully it works on the Steam Deck. I'm feeling it won't. And this is coming to everything except Switch. Being made by Night Dive Studios. Night Dive Studios are responsible for a lot of remakes in the last while. I'm going to pause that for a second so I can change over. I think I also need to change to something else. Yes, okay. So I need to change this because we're out of March, but we're not quite into April. So what we're in here now is Q1 territory. So these games are coming out in January to March at some point. Don't know when, but at some point in the spring area. The Q1 of 2023 is when the next handful of games will be out. So the first one is Scars Above. Scars Above is a third-person, over-the-shoulder shooter type thing. So think Resident Evils 4, 5, and 6, effectively. or the 2, 3, and 4 remakes kind of thing. There is a somewhat of an element of Returnal to it, but it's nowhere near as fast paced as something like Returnal. Scars Above is coming to everything except Switch. It's made by Madhead Games. Their last game was called Pagan, which I am vaguely aware of, but to be honest, I don't remember it that well. So I don't believe it's doing the roguelike thing like Returnal, but I do feel, and the developers have said, that it's meant to be a pretty tough shooter game. There is a demo for this on Steam, but I have not been able to get it to work on the Steam Deck, so your mileage may vary. So the trailer there says February 28th, but everything else I have looked up says, don't know, says Q1. So I don't know what's happening there. And as you can see, it's coming to everything except the Switch. Moving on, we have Flintlock, Siege of Dawn. So Flintlock Siege of Dawn is developed by the same people who made Ashen, A44. It's coming to everything except the Switch. So Flintlock Siege of Dawn is somewhat set in... So it's set in an alternative Earth where the gods never left. Not that the gods ever existed in the first place, but in this one, the gods did exist and they never left and essentially have become despots. You are... Technologically wise, I think we're somewhere in what would be considered like revolutionary age. So flintlock pistols, steam engines kind of period of human history kind of thing, I think is where we're going. But as you can see, there's also magical shit happening too. So don't take that with a bit of a grain of salt. Ashen was a somewhat bare bones Souls-like game. Flintlock feels like they may have taken the world building aspect of Ashen, which was really good. Even if the individual gameplay of Ashen wasn't particularly fun, the world building aspects were. So it feels like they've still got that going for them. Also, cassowaries, gotta be careful there. You've got this kind of crazy carbuncle guy that helps you teleport about the place. But it definitely seems like they've been focusing a lot more on making the gameplay more interesting, more varied. Or the combat, I should say. So I am curious about this game, and we'll see how it turns out. So this is scheduled for Q1, 2023. And then next up, again, I need to change because we are now moving into April. On the other hand, there's only going to be one game that's actually coming out in April on this list, so whatever. It's Ad Infinitum, or Ad Infinitum, or whatever way you want to put it. This is a first-person... Apron? No, not apron. April. This is... Should you be 25? I think that number's wrong. No, that's right. Okay. As you can see, Ad Infinitum is a first-person horror title, psychological horror thing, where you are somewhat jumping forward and back in time, going back to your time in World War I, in the trenches as a German officer, and then being shunted forward in time after the war, or possibly before the war. It's don't know. It really reminds me of The Darkness. The very first Darkness game had these episodes where you would go into this alternative hell, which was also World War One. There's also a bit of Death Stranding in here as well. Ad Infinitum has been coming out for a billion years as well. I think it was originally announced in 2009 and has gone through quite a few iterations now at this point, but is allegedly coming out on the 20th of April and is going to be available on everything. I don't think the Switch is going to be able to handle this, but apparently it's coming out on everything. This is developed by Hecate. This would be Hecate's debut title when it comes out. Okay, I'm going to move ahead. Actually, I'm not going to move ahead because I need to change this again. I'm going to change it to May now. So May, you might know, because a lot of people are definitely looking forward to this game. So in May, oh, that's what happened. I see. I'm still in there. Right, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. All right, the follow-up to Breath of the Wild. Yeah, we still don't know anything about this game, really. Other than it'll probably play much like Breath of the Wild. The map is about double what it was, although I have a feeling some shenanigans may have happened to the lower world. The map from Breath of the Wild, where you probably won't be able to access all of it. But hell, I don't know. Maybe you will. Maybe you will. But otherwise, we don't know too much. I never finished the original, so I don't really know what the story follow-on is, other than I think they're trying to... They interact with Ganon's corpse, I think, and then something bad happens, and that's where we're going. But the big change for the sequel is that there's now effectively two maps, or two levels. You have the lower ground, which is all Breath of the Wild, and then there's an upper level, which would be for this game. And you're going to be moving between both of them. But other than that, we don't know a whole lot. So that's that. That's coming out 12th of March, and will be exclusive to the Nintendo Switch. And then after that, we have... okay, I'm going to get this right. Going to get it right first try. Hang on, let me lower you down. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Right, I said it right. Oh, it's so difficult to get this right. Anyway, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League coming out 26th of March on only current-gen titles. Developed by Rocksteady Studios, who are responsible for all the Arkham Batman games. I don't know how to feel about this game, to be perfectly honest. I would much rather play as the Justice League than the Suicide Squad, and I kind of feel like picking the Suicide Squad is a cop-out for the developer. Because clearly their gameplay will be, one, considerably easier to balance, and two, won't be so difficult to implement, because they effectively have it done already. So I do feel like they just took the easy way out and didn't try to make a Superman game, or a Green Lantern game, or the Flash game, Wonder Woman game, and so on. Because game design-wise, that's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to make a Superman game that feels challenging. Because who would be challenging? Who would be a challenge to Superman? The other thing I don't like about it is that, I think I said this about the Game Awards trailer, is that I don't like the idea of... I don't know. I don't like the cynicism of having heroes as villains. Like, I get it happens in a bunch of comics, but it's a lot of the time it's an alternative thing. Hey, Melwin, Obi-Wan is more Batman, or play as the Joker. Well, Batman's in this. He's a bad guy, though, which I really don't like. And I really don't like that Kevin Conroy's last go as the Batman, he's a bad guy. I don't like that. I'm still hoping that, they'll be able to get Batman out of his brainwashing from Brainiac, and he'll become a sort of support character for the Suicide Squad. Because I kind of feel that's more in keeping with his character than being brainwashed by Brainiac. If anyone in the Justice League wouldn't get brainwashed, it'd be Batman, Because he has contingencies for all this shit, but... Anyway, I don't know how to feel about this game, is what I'm saying. But I will probably play it. Anyway, moving on. Diablo... It's too bright to play as Batman, that's fair. You have to wait for nighttime, then you get to play as Batman. Okay, Diablo 4. Right. How to think about this. So this is coming out on the 6th of June. Sorry, gotta change the date. 6th of June. I don't necessarily know how to feel about this because Blizzard, since they merged with Activision, have been absolute shit to their employees and to their customers, to their users and what have you. So I don't want to give them any money, basically, is how I'm going with that. On the other hand, if Microsoft do acquire them, Diablo 4 could end up on Game Pass, and then, at least in my brain, I'm giving the money to Microsoft and not Blizzard. But anyway, I know how to think about that. But story-wise, if you had played Diablo 3, you may be somewhat familiar with this scene. This is Inarius descending into Hell to battle the forces of Hell, where he encounters Lilith. The two of them effectively leave the eternal battle, the eternal struggle between heaven and hell, and go off to found Sanctuary, which is Earth, effectively, and start the entire race of man, more or less. So what's not clear is if this is that actual scene or if this is after that scene, because Inarius shouldn't know Lilith in this scene. We mightn't get that far, but he quite clearly calls her out by name here, so I don't know. Gameplay-wise, I've seen some good stuff, but I've seen some really bad stuff too. I've seen the game is always online. I've seen the game is effectively a Destiny type thing, where the main world is effectively a multiplayer lobby. You're going to be seeing multiple people running around the arena, running around the map with you. And you can buddy up with them if you want, but Diablo was always a solo game to me. I don't want always online bullshit. I don't want it microtransaction shit, and it's gonna happen because Activision Blizzard, but here we are. Anyway, boo to the online, absolutely. So yeah, he calls her out by name there. So this would suggest this is after. But I thought Inarius was dead, so this could be different. Anyway, really cool CG scene, but hopefully the game will be better. I'm guessing he misses. Anyway, that was Diablo 4. Where are we on the list? I keep losing my place. Okay, next up. 22nd of June for, not RoboCop, for Final Fantasy 16. So Final Fantasy 16 coming out 22nd of June. It's going to be exclusively to PS5, whereas Diablo 4 is everything except Switch. What we've seen of Final Fantasy 16 has been really interesting, and it's mostly because it's not Final Fantasy. it has all the trappings of it. It has chocobos. It has, grand displays of power and stuff like that going for it. But gameplay-wise, it looks like it plays a lot more like Devil May Cry, and that is almost certainly because the combat designer is the guy behind Devil May Cry. You've also seen that the summons, the Eidolons, the Ekons, the Guardian Forces, whatever they're called in this game, are taking more of a role in warfare, which was something they did in Final Fantasy IX, and somewhat in Final Fantasy XIV as well, which is cool. They look really good. They look really interesting. Some of the gameplay, I'm not sure if it's in this trailer, might be in another trailer. It looks like a fighting game in some cases, because you have like the 2 health bars in the top of the screen, like you'd see in like Street Fighter or Tekken, that kind of thing, where the 2 big monsters are fighting each other, which is just funny. You also seem to have a dog party companion, so that'll be cool. I mean, there's no question that I'll be playing it. It's a Final Fantasy. I'm absolutely going to play it. It's just how much it just doesn't look like a Final Fantasy game. It's just kind of weird. To me, at least. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's good for these things to evolve. But I guess we'll see. Okay, moving on. I think you know what's coming next since I skipped ahead to it. RoboCop. Alright, RoboCop Rogue City. This will be developed by the same people who made Terminator Salvation. Dog and Final Fantasy. I'm definitely in. Yep, that's it. So RoboCop Rogue City coming to current gens. As I said, developed by Teon, who made Terminator Resistance, which is a surprisingly good shooter. Like, it has absolutely no right to be as good as it is. It's not incredibly brilliant or anything, but it's serviceable, which is not something you usually get from film games, effectively. You're getting like little bursts here that might be gameplay, might be bullshit. It's hard to tell, but a first-person RoboCop game, like, of course you're gonna want to play this. It looks super gory. It looks pretty faithful to the game. It's to the film series. There's an Ed 209. How they think the guys with small arms are gonna do anything against RoboCop? I don't know. But I guess we'll see how that comes out. And that is scheduled for June. Don't know when. June at some point. So again, before we move on to quarter 3, we got a bit of a our wrap up here for Q2. So these next couple of games are at some stage between April and June. They'll be out. So first up is After Us. This was shown off at the Game Awards this year. It's developed by the same people who made Arise, A Simple Story. This will be current gen exclusive. Piccolo Studio, that's who they're called. Arise, A Simple Story was somewhat of a limbo type game. It was heavy puzzle focused, but it had a sort of time rewinding aspect to it that was really interesting. I actually really liked Arise. So I'm hoping After Us is similarly has strong mechanics. From what I can tell from this, there's a lot of platform traversal aspects to it. But it also looks like it's going to be doing a bit of an Okami job in that you're bringing nature back to an industrialized world kind of thing. All we have seen of the game so far is this one trailer, so we don't know too much of what's happening. Arise didn't have any combat in it, so I kind of feel it unlikely After Us will either. There is, however, the ghost of a wiener dog, so that's always fun. And there's a ghost of an eagle or something at some point. But who cares? Wiener dog. After Us is Coffee Talk. Is that playing? No, it's not playing. Play. It's Coffee Talk, episode 2, Hibiscus and Butterfly, which has a demo out on Steam if you want to check it out now. This will be on everything except PC. That's not right. Because there's a demo for it on Steam, so it's gonna be on PC. I don't know why I have that down. All right. This is developed by Toga Productions, same people who did Coffee Talk, and the same people responsible for A Space for the Unbound earlier in the list. What's interesting here is I played the original Coffee Talk. Thinking of streaming the first. It's really good, Melvin. I really liked it. It's a visual novel. There are some puzzle elements to it in that you need to give them the coffee they ask for, but they don't necessarily ask for a specific coffee. They don't say I want decaf, something. They'll go, I want something sweet that won't keep me up at night or something like that. So you're like, okay, I need to make hot cocoa or something, to make it with milk so that they don't fall asleep. Don't skip ahead. Oh, you dick, you skipped ahead. Go back. It says repeat, you see, but it doesn't actually repeat, which is rather annoying. Anyway, I'm going to leave that up. What was I saying? Otherwise, it's a visual novel thing, and it has a somewhat like a fantasy modern world in that you have elves and dwarves and succubi and ghosts and aliens and shit like that are all just mingling, going about their life. Some of them work in tech, some of them are garbage disposal people. They just have their own lives. You run a coffee shop. The only coffee shop that opens past midnight, I think, is the gist of it. And for some reason, you're able to do that. It's somewhat of a running joke that how do you have the money to only open at stupid hours in the middle of the morning? And they're like, don't worry about it, it's fine. I get by. But yeah, it's a lot of intermingling stories. What do they call it? What do they call the personal ads where they're missed connections sort of thing? That kind of thing. People talking about their daily lives and that kind of thing. It's chill, it's a really chill, fun game. And I don't imagine the second one will be any different. What's somewhat sad is that the developer of the first game died during development of this game, which is why it has been a while in development. It was essentially taken over by friends of the developer, and they finished the game. So that's a bit sad, but at least the game is finished. They do have that. It's like the Piano Man. It's a little bit like that. All right, yeah, definitely. Okay, moving on. Are we still in Q2? We're still in Q2. Okay. Hyperlight Breaker, to go completely from super chill vibes to extremely fast, twitchy melee action. Hyperlight Breaker by Heart Machine, as you can see there. Their previous game, Solar Ash, we showed off last year. No, not last year. This year. On the channel, and their game before that though is Hyperlight Drifter, which is think of a fast-paced Legend of Zelda, like the old Legend of Zelda, the top-down ones, and you'll probably get an idea of what Hyperlight Drifter is. And it looks like Hyperlight Breaker is more melee-focused sequel type deal. Again, all we know about the game is what you've just seen, so we don't really know too much about it. But yeah, early access. It says spring there, but that's changed. It's going to be early access in Q2 now instead. But it is coming to. Sorry, I have to pause there. It's coming to PC only for now. I imagine that's just because it's early access, and then it'll be moved on to whatever else because Hyperlight Drifter ended up on everything. Okay. Next up, Last Case of Benedict Fox. This again is Q2 2023 at some point. It's coming out on PC and Xbox only. This is a game by Plot Twist Studios. The last game they made was called Women of Zal, which I think is a dating sim, but I'm not sure. Anyway, The Last Case of Benedict Fox is a Metroidvania type thing, but it is set in a kind of 20s, 30s Lovecraft thing. So there's a lot of like eldritch horror shenanigans going on, magic tattoos that give you different abilities and things like that. You have gone to this mansion in search of your father, who was on his last... Sorry, he went missing somewhere in this mansion. I was going to say it's his last case, but it's actually not his last case. It's the main character is Benedict Fox. It's this guy's last case, which suggests he dies in the game. But I guess there's that. I don't know. What I've seen, like a sort of melee-focused Metroidvania, Castlevania type deal, it just looks fun. I'm hoping it runs well on the Steam Deck. Okay. After that, we have Master Detective Archives Rain Code, which is a very long title, which would suggest it's probably a Japanese title, and it is. So Spike Chunsoft, again, is one of those developers that have a lot of games. So who is specifically making this one? These are the same people who made Danganronpa, which is a visual novel detective game and is super fucked up as well in terms of like content warnings and that kind of thing. Raincode, same developer. It's also a detective thing, but it has somewhat of an open plan to it, whereas Danganronpa was very locked in. You know, it was very linear as a visual novel. It also has either, depending on how you like it, either a super annoying voiced mascot character or a cute voiced mascot character. It depends how you like your anime characters, I suppose. Danganronpa is really good. Danganronpa's 1, 2, and 3. So I'm kind of feeling that Raincode will hopefully be much the same. This is currently set to be exclusive to Switch. Okay, moving on. Before we have high-pitched voice makes everybody leave the channel. Planet of Lana was shown off a good while ago. I believe it's going to be an Xbox exclusive deal. Xbox and PC. This is developed by Wishfully. This is their debut title. Planet of Lana, a lot of devs and a lot of... Sorry, not devs. A lot of publications have sort of likened it to a Ghibli art style, I guess. There is that element to it. I think the more interesting thing is that this little black thing, alien that's following you, is effectively a dog. And that's, you know, that's a day one for me. Cute dog thing that helps you out. Yeah, absolutely. I want to play that. It's very pretty. Like Ghibli or otherwise, it does look very nice. There's a bit of Limbo to it. There's a bit of Abe's Odyssey to it. And it does seem that this strange dog monkey character that follows you around has some ability to interact with or manipulate local creatures. We don't know. Again, we don't know too much about the game. Again, the dog catches me out. Like, games know what to get. Either put a dog in the game or put an air dash in the game, and I will play it. If you have a dog that can air dash, it'll be my favorite game. Hence, Okami is one of my favorite games. But yeah, Planet of Lana is a Q2 2023 deal. So I guess we'll see more of that in the future. Moving on, Sherlock Holmes: The Awakened. So The Awakened, this particular game is actually a remake of The Awakened Sherlock Holmes, previously by Frogwares. I believe Frogwares are also behind this one. Yeah, they are. So Frogwares are responsible for all those Sherlock Holmes games you see. They're the guys who make them. They recently made Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1, which was effectively a reboot of the whole series. They went back to like young Sherlock Holmes, where he's an arrogant shithead and, you know, thinks he knows more than everybody, and rather frustratingly, he does know more than everybody. The Awakened, however, is like Sherlock Holmes's first interaction with eldritch horror kind of thing, which is why you're seeing like fantastical elements and things like that. And it's also attributed to why Sherlock becomes sort of insular and agoraphobic later in life. It's like this is essentially attributed. It's that story. I loved all the Sherlock Holmes games I've played. I bounce off them a lot. I don't know why. I haven't played Chapter 1 though. I have been meaning to go back to it. I have played one of Frogwares' other titles, which is called The Sinking City, which I did really like, and that is almost entirely Lovecrafty, has nothing to do with Sherlock Holmes. But I really like that game, so I'm kind of hoping if I can get to Chapter 1 and get through that, and then have a look at The Awakened, because I like me some Eldritch Horror as well. And that's going to be on everything, apparently. Okay, go back that guy. We'll free his festering soul for him. I don't know how to pronounce the name of this game, so I'm going to butcher it. Tchia? Chia? Yeah, I don't know. It's a kind of sandbox, tropical island kind of thing. This character, the main character, Chia, I think it's her name. It might just be the name of the island. She has the ability to sort of body hop into animals, and you'll see it pops up in other levels or other parts of this trailer. Here, for instance, where it looks like she's about to annihilate this seagull. But no, she instead becomes the seagull. And you can use that as like puzzling elements, you know, fly around and jump out into this dog, jump off into like a parrot or into a crab and all this kind of stuff. So I think like that's the kind of gameplay they're going for. It's a sort of explorathon kind of thing. There is some element of a slice of life aspect to it, where you can like farming, help out people in the local area, and then tackle like these oil tycoons, I think is what happens later on. But again, don't know a whole lot about this game, but it has been delayed numerous times. It was going to be a PlayStation exclusive. I think it still is. Yeah, it's a PlayStation exclusive, so it's going to be PC, PS4, PS5. We'll know a bit more about it next year, I think. Sony were like really showing it off and then just stopped. So I guess we'll see what happens there. Plus you can pet all the animals, like the crab. So that's fun. Okay, now for the one game that's coming out in August. Or at least the only one that is scheduled to come out in August. Some of these Q3 ones that will show up later on are possibly coming out then as well. But scheduled for an August release is Baldur's Gate 3. It is allegedly coming out of early access around August. So if you're interested in playing it right now, it is in early access over on Steam. But it will be hitting 1.0 in and around August at some point. So Baldur's Gate 3, follow-up to Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, is a Dungeons & Dragons game. There has not been a good Dungeons & Dragons game since Baldur's Gate 2, effectively. Sorry, that's not true. Neverwinter's Nights was really good. But it's been a while. So Larian Studios are the developer. Their last game, Divinity Original Sin 2, is effectively Dungeons & Dragons already. So I've played Divinity Original Sin 2. It's way too hard, in my opinion, but it is really well made, so I will give them that. So hopefully they've dialed down the difficulty a little bit for Baldur's Gate 3. I've avoided early access just because, I don't know, in general principle, I wait for the game to be finished before I buy it. But that's just me. Anyway, that's the sole game coming out in August. It's also the sole game coming out in Q3. The rest of these games are either Q4 or we just don't know. They're out in 2023 at some point. So, Banisher's Ghost of Eden was shown off at the Game Awards this year. It's by Don't Nod. So the people behind Life is Strange or Vampire, which we played on the channel previously, or the ironically named Remember Me that nobody remembers. So Banisher's Ghost of Eden, we don't see much here. It's a CG trailer, but it is you're, I guess, roaming the frontier, Canadian frontier possibly, and it's like all like snow forests and timber forests and that kind of thing. That's what I'm basing it on. And you are fighting ghosts and banishing them effectively. We really don't know a whole lot about the game. The very tiny amount of gameplay that's at the end of this trailer doesn't show us a whole lot. Don't Nod had some interesting melee combat. Vampire did not. IMO, it was kind of clunky, so I'm kind of hoping they lean more towards the Remember Me combat rather than the Vampire combat. But I guess we'll see. Again, we don't know a whole lot about that. That is Q4 at some point, only for current gen titles. This one I'm going to talk about very quickly because I don't actually want to watch any more of this trailer than I have to. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the sequel to Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's coming out Q4 2023. It's going to be exclusive to PlayStation 5 for a while before it ends up on something else, probably PC. And now I'm skipping. Skip. I don't want to know anymore. Don't tell me. No spoilers. If you want to know more, go look at the trailer. Because I haven't played Final Fantasy VII Remake yet. I don't know. I don't want to be depressed when I play it, but I've been depressed for 15 years, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. Cover my eyes. Okay. This is I the Inquisitor. This is developed by The Dust. This is their debut title. It'll be a current gen title. So the setup for I the Inquisitor is the stupidest thing I think I've heard, but it's hilarious and I need to play it no matter how jank it's going to be. The idea is Jesus Christ, as he was being crucified, just said, you know what, fuck this, breaks the cross, kills everybody there, and installs himself as emperor of the planet. Right? It's like, okay, let's go with that. So you have these Inquisitor guys, it's like medieval fantasy, dumb shit, Jesus Christ is evil kind of thing. It's hilarious, and I really need to play it, so it's gonna be jank as fuck, but whatever. Let's see how it goes. After I the Inquisitor, we have a game that doesn't want to be played. Click. Oh, Alan Wake 2, right. Alan Wake 2. I actually need to update this text now because the rest of the games that we're going to be looking at on this list are, I want to see what the church thinks about Jesus being evil. That would be hilarious, all right. So the rest of the games we're going to be looking at now are 2023, just don't know when. Could be January, could be December, could be delayed until 2024. That's probably the more likely one, but I guess we'll see. Alan Wake 2, the sequel to Alan Wake 1, has been in development not that long, actually, but it's been in development hell for a really long time. Remedy have just been trying to find the right story, allegedly. I think what they've really been trying to find is the funding to make an Alan Wake 2. But Remedy recently made Control, which is an exceptionally good shooter combat game. It's just very, very good game. It's going to be on the channel at some point because I don't think I can hold off on not playing it again anytime soon. I attempted to do a Let's Play of Alan Wake 1 when the remaster of it was released recently, and I kind of bounced off it. I didn't finish the Let's Play. Usually I complete my Let's Plays, even if I'm not really enjoying the game that much. Well, I just couldn't do it for this, and it's not the only Let's Play I haven't abandoned, but I try to avoid doing that. But whatever, I don't know, I just couldn't get into it. I might try it again off stream and see if maybe streaming it was the issue I didn't like. I guess we'll find out. Because I know it has a good reputation among people who have played it. So I'm kind of feeling like, what am I missing? Why don't I like it? So I don't know, I might have to give it another shot. After Alan Wake, we're going to skip this one pretty quickly. Aliens Dark Descent. Again, TBC at some stage next year. Probably not, though. Again, this is an almost entirely CG trailer. Our mission was to enter the Did I cover Hogwarts Legacy yet? No, and I'm not going to. What's that game? It's weird. When I look in the chat, it just says, "Did you cover?" and then there's just a bunch of weird squiggles. Weird. Anyway, Aliens Dark Descent is effectively XCOM Aliens, which I think makes sense. You know, like that. Yeah, that works. Aliens Dark Descent, XCOM. Cool. I might hang on. I can try to skip ahead on the trailer, and I might see. You'll see like the tiniest burst of gameplay right at the end. Where is it? Okay, hang on. If I skip to here. Right, tiniest amount of gameplay right there. Anyway, some stage in 2023. HP haters unite, absolutely. Okay, now for dumb shit. The guys who made Broforce and Genital Jousting have made another really weird game called Angerfoot. It's a first-person Hotline Miami, effectively. But the only difference is you have one really strong leg, effectively, and you just kick people really hard and they die. There's a demo for it out on Steam at the moment if you want to try it. It is as dumb as it sounds. It really is as dumb as it sounds. But it is just as hard as Hotline Miami. You know, you die really, really fast. You really do need to know what the hell you're doing. Don't drive like that, kids. It's not the best idea. Angerfoot is currently exclusive to PC. I guess we'll see later. Okay, shown off during the Game Awards again this year was Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. And oh god, if you were on Twitter for when it happened, you were thinking, oh, mechs, Dark Souls, wow, I can't wait to play that. And then you had to restrain yourself from slapping them through the internet as hard as you could. Armored Core predates Dark Souls, you assholes. Anyway, Armored Core is a mech game. But the closest, like, there hasn't been a modern Armored Core for a while. The closest kind of game to it is, I guess, something like Monster Hunter, I guess, is that you set up in a hub world. You know, you fix up your mech, you get your loadout, what guns do you want it to have, what armor do you want it to have, what sub stuff do you want it to have, and so on, and then you go off and do a mission in your giant mech. And that's kind of it. That's kind of how the Armored Core series works. So it's definitely not like a Souls Living World type thing where you're just roaming around the place. There is usually a central hub thing where you are deployed from, but the trailer is extremely moody and really... to be fair, it kind of tricked people. Like, the text work they're using here is like, feed the fire, which is a Dark Souls thing, and let the final embers burn, where it says here, is also a Dark Souls thing. So they weren't exactly helping people. I feel like they were intentionally trying to mislead people into thinking it was a mech Souls. But no, it's Armored Core 6. Hopefully you don't have to have played Armored Cores 1 to 5 to figure out what's going on. But yeah, the whole trailer looks really good, and if the game itself lives up to it, then yeah, Armored Core's back, baby. Anyway, moving on. That trailer's quite long, so we're going to skip ahead. Speaking of long trailers, Assassin's Creed Mirage. Not entirely sure how to feel about Assassin's Creed Mirage. So this will be on everything except the Switch, and is being made by Ubisoft Bordeaux, which are an entirely new Ubisoft studio, and this will be their first title. Again, I have the same issue with Ubisoft that I have with Activision and Blizzard, is that as a company, they're very shit to their employees, so I have difficulty giving them my money, let's put it that way. But what we're seeing at this, if we ignore that aspect of it and just look at the game, Assassin's Creed Mirage is kind of a throwback to the original Assassin's Creed. So we're going back to the Middle East. We're going to Baghdad. In particular, we're going back to the actually cutting the finger off thing. We're going back to the feather over the people's eyes when you kill them sort of thing from Assassin's Creed 1. It's very much a we're going back to basics kind of thing. And I'm all for that because Assassin's Creed has massively diverted from what I think the series was really meant to be, and it's just become a kind of generic action adventure thing. So yeah, if they can make that happen, great. The trailer, unfortunately, is entirely CG, so we don't have any actual gameplay. That will be a theme, as you may have noticed, going forward. And also this particular trailer. Atlas Fallen, shown off at Summer Game Fest, is current gen only. This is being made by Deck 13, who are the people responsible for the Surge games. So Atlas Fallen is again a kind of shattered world, fantasy, post-apocalypse kind of thing. I'm going to skip ahead on this trailer though, because it's mostly just CG fluff. There are, again, a very small burst of gameplay right at the end. Or what might be gameplay. Skip. So you have it here. Like, mostly I want to play it for the sand surfing bit. That's kind of what I really want to play it for. But other than that, I don't think it'll be much to talk about. After that, we have Back Firewall. Back Firewall is a bit of a Portal-like kind of thing. There is a trailer for this on Steam at the moment if you want to try it out. I have played it. It's quite funny. So it's going to be on pretty much everything. Developed by Naravan Games. So the general gist of this is the OS of your phone doesn't want to update to the latest version, basically, and it's doing everything in its power to avoid updating to the next version of its OS. But because of that, things are falling apart because the stuff the updates are meant to fix aren't being fixed and stuff like that. So that's the kind of gist of it. You play the update launcher effectively. You're like the thing that's meant to run the update protocol to update the whole thing. And this OS intervenes and he's like, once you've updated it, it's going to delete you as well because you're not needed anymore. And so it's going to kill me and it's going to kill you. So why don't we work together and avoid updating our phone? And that's kind of the gist of it. But it's billed like very comedic. And I think has also been delayed quite a few times as well. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, the trailer.
Skipping ahead. Black Myth Wukong, we have not heard a lot about this in a good while. This last trailer was a year ago, but it is effectively a Soulsy type game, but it is set in and around the mythology of the Monkey King, which is like a Chinese King Arthur kind of thing. It's like a hero of legend, Hercules type deal. Involved in a lot of different fables and myths in Chinese folklore. So you'll be playing the Monkey King. Goku, Son Goku of the Dragon Ball series is based heavily on the Monkey King, with the like super extending pole and the cloud that he flies around on and the hair and everything. It's all very much he's meant to be him, pretty much. I'll skip ahead a little bit for actual gameplay, because there is a bit. Or what may or may not be gameplay. I think I skipped ahead too far. Anyway, it looks really, really good. Has much more of a martial arts focus to it, and like an Eastern focus rather than the Souls games that typically have an Eastern medieval setting. So, yeah. But again, we haven't heard anything about it for like a month, or not a month, a year. So, and obviously China has been going through their own COVID issues for that entire year. So, who knows what's happening there. Blue Protocol was shown off at the Game Awards. We're not going to talk about this too much. It's an anime Genshin Impact type deal, but again, Genshin Impact could do with competition. So that's mostly what I'm looking at it for there, just to see what it will bring. I don't think it's a gacha thing though, like Genshin. I think it is like a proper complete story type thing. But this will be current gen by Bandai Namco. Anyway. I'm going to skip ahead on that one, because I don't think there's much to say about it. If you know what Genshin is, you probably know what Blue Protocol is going to be. Botany Manor is a kind of chill, you inherit this, like, manor grounds from somebody, and you're mostly, I think it's the idea is that you're retiring here, and you're spending your retirement, like, fixing up the greenhouse, the gardens, that kind of thing, and, cultivating exotic flowers and that kind of thing, and trying to figure out how to grow them. It's like, what kind of soil do they need? What kind of food do they need? How often do I need to water them? How much sun do they need? if I put them in this pot, is that the right shape? You know, that kind of thing. Should I put them near heat and all that kind of thing? So it's sort of a puzzle game set in this like chill, relaxing environment. Botany Manor is currently PC and Switch only. Developed by Balloon Studios. It will be their debut title whenever it comes out next year at some point. Okay, so I'm going to lump these two together. So the Dark Pictures Anthology Season 2 will be beginning next year. So there'll probably be 2 games. If they're following the same release frequency that they had for the Season 1, there'll be 2 Dark Pictures games next year. This is the teaser that plays at the end of The Devil in Me, so spoilers, I guess, but it's a trailer, it's an ad, you know. I don't think you're meant to do spoiler warnings for ads. This is Protocol 8020 or Directive 8020, something like that. So it's like a sci-fi horror thing. There's a bit of sunshine, possibly. There's a bit of Dead Space potentially happening in the background. Again, it's a teaser. They're not showing off too much there. That'll be the first one, and then whatever the second one is, I don't know. We don't have a name for it yet. Moving on, Disney Dreamlight Valley is currently in early access, but it will be releasing its 1.0 at some point next year. We don't know when. It's currently available on everything, basically, except maybe mobile. The gist of it is it's Animal Crossing, but Disney. That's kind of it, you know? It's like, it's a slice of life sim. Sorry, not a slice of life sim, a life sim. You're in the Disney Dreamlight Valley. You know, you live there. You're meeting your neighbors. You're trying to help them with their problems. All the while, you're inundated with Disney stuff and, you know, indoctrinated to buy more Disney things and not question the company's position in enforcing capitalism on everybody. Anyway, I mostly just want to see what 1.0 looks like, you know, because they've had the excuse that it's been early access and some things are missing because we haven't implemented them yet. I want to see what they claim is their 1.0. That's what I want to see. And then I want to see if they add any Kingdom Hearts things to it. Which you know, I'll be a Disney fanboy if they add Kingdom Hearts stuff to Disney Dreamlight Valley, but it's not going to happen, so I don't think I have to worry about that. My hate of Disney has prevented me from playing it for now. So same Mel. Dordogne, I don't think I pronounced that right at all. It's an area of France somewhere. That's all I know about it. Again, I am falling to the same trap that catches me almost every time. It has an interesting art style and direction, which immediately makes me go, want, give game, want, play. It has a different art style to another game I've played. You know, that's it. That's all I got to say about it. It'll be on everything. It's by a developer called Un Je ne sais quoi. It'll be their debut title. After that is Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. As the name would suggest, there are 100 playable characters in this game. It is giving it the 2D HD 2D approach. So it is effectively a spiritual successor to Suikoden. Where Suikoden had Suikoden 2, I think, had 1,000 playable characters or something stupid like that. 100 Heroes isn't quite that nuts, but I think you probably have an idea of what you're getting yourselves into. It's a turn-based RPG type with a fairly giant party list. I'm not sure how you're meant to juggle 100 people. I never played Suikoden, so I'm not sure how that even worked. But that's the kind of thing you're dealing with. Lots and lots of shit happening on screen at once. We played Eiyuden Chronicles Rising, which was a prequel minigame, which was part of the Kickstarter campaign for this game. It was an early unlock, basically, for, hey, do you want us to make like a prequel thing? Because it's going to be a while before this game comes out. And they hit their milestone for that. And we played that on the channel. I finished it. It was okay. That's it. I mean, I'm not sure you can expect more from something that they probably weren't actually planning on making in the first place. So there's that. Hopefully, their actual planned Kickstarter game will be a lot better. Gunbrella has a demo out on Steam at the moment. If you want to check it out, Gunbrella is currently for PC and Switch. It's developed by Doinksoft. Doinksoft are the people behind Gato Roboto, which you may or may not remember, is a black and white title where you play a cat in a mech. Fantastic idea. Absolutely. Gunbrella is yet another strange thing that probably shouldn't work, but does work. It's an umbrella and it's also a gun. So you have some very interesting movement tech going on here. You can see that the shotgun propels you back, but if you turn it into an umbrella, you can also swoop yourself up into the air, or, you know, swing yourself forward and stuff off the recoil and that kind of thing. So there's really interesting movement options that are making my brain go, ooh, I know, how does that work? I need to see how that works. So yeah. Also, he says Gunbrella at the end of the trailer, which is I'm here for. So after Gunbrella, we have Hell Is Us. This is a very moody, entirely CG trailer again, unfortunately. Developed by Rogue Factor. This will be current gen only. The last game Rogue Factor made was More Time, City of the Damned. We don't really know what kind of game Hell Is Us is going to be. It's somewhat presenting itself as a Death Stranding Soulsy type game. You'll see here in a minute. I'm actually going to skip a little bit ahead because there are more interesting aspects to this trailer. So there seems to be some kind of time warping or timelines stacking up on each other, and that's creating some kind of weird feedback in the world. You can see these sort of hollow people kind of thing happening, which I'm getting huge Death Stranding vibes just from this one shot right there. You've got this kind of owl drone thing. I love the way, I love that way that it has this sort of segmented arms and body. That's great. But I love the way it just docks with this guy, and it's like a Peregrine Falcon type deal. It just screams Death Stranding to me. That's all. And I'm like, yes, more of this, please. I want to see it. Show me what you got. Hell Is Us. Moving on, we have Hollow Body, and I did not intend to say Hollow Body in the last trailer on purpose for this. I promise. This is entirely unintended. Currently, this is going to come to PC only, but that will probably change in the future. This is by Headwear Games, which is actually a solo dev. The previous game they made is called Chasing Static, which is a really good first-person horror walking sim type thing, which I am planning on streaming at some point next year. This is also a Kickstarter title, which also, full disclosure, I have backed. So we will probably play this whenever it comes out. So what game immediately comes to mind when you see this gameplay? You know, there's really only one game, and it's Silent Hill. This is a Silent Hill I'm up, basically. And I am very much here for it. Definitely seeing what the developer has been talking about through the Kickstarter updates and things like that. Yeah, they know what they're doing. Or at least they get Silent Hill. So I have a feeling that this will be a decent one. The gist of it is, it's somewhat like a punk future. You are a black market courier who has had to leave the confines of the city to make a delivery, make a dead drop or something like that. And on your way back, your hover car or whatever malfunctions, and you end up in this area, the Hollows, I think is what it's called, that has, not been brought up to not modern standards, but it was kind of left behind in the last century kind of thing, and horror shenanigans are happening there now. Anyway, moving on. You didn't move on like I told you to. There it is. Immortals of Avum is another EA Originals. Now, I know it says EA on it, but the thing is, EA Originals, EA tends to leave them alone. Tends to just let them do their thing. This is a debut title from Ascendant Studios. Again, the trailer is entirely CG. We don't know what the game will actually play like. It looks like it's a first-person magic shooter type thing. What is kind of interesting to me is the very end of this trailer. So when he pops out here, right? So he pops out into this battlefield, and it looks like he's controlling something way in the distance. So what I'm curious about is, usually CG things are somewhat, you can do this kind of in the game, kind of. Not exactly the same. So I want to know how that translates to actual gameplay, more or less. Lies of P is Pinocchio Dark Souls, or Pinocchio Bloodborne, really, is probably more correct. So you are Pinocchio. You have. I don't think you're an entirely mechanical boy. I think it's just you have like mechanical prosthesis or something like that. But yeah, the France is falling apart, or not France. Where's Pinocchio said? Austria? Austria is falling apart. And there's some allusions to like the story, like that's the fairy godmother. Jiminy Cricket, I think, is some kind of creature that lives in your lantern. The Donkey Boys, I forget what they're actually called, show up at the very end of the trailer and stuff like that. But skipping ahead. Skip. There's Geppetto. Skippity skip. All right. There's Christian Bale. North of Italy, is it? Okay. I thought it was Austria. There's Jiminy Cricket. Yeah, it's like a Bloodborne 'em up, effectively, but you're Pinocchio, kind of. I've seen some preview builds of it. They haven't been available to the public, so I've only had to watch other people play it. And yeah, it feels like Bloodborne, more or less. Will it play as well as Bloodborne? We'll see. I like the idea. I like the idea of somehow making Pinocchio work as a Dark Souls type thing. Which would be pretty funny. And then the very end of the trailer, Pinocchio is everywhere now. I know, I don't think they intended it that way. Lies of P has been delayed a lot. So these guys is what I'm calling the donkey kids. You know, in the cartoon at least, where they go off to the island and they drink beer and they become like donkey children kind of thing. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what I'm assuming these guys are. And they have a casket that they're carrying around. Like, if they're going to be this on the nose with their story illusions and fairy tale stuff, then yeah, absolutely. I'm in. Let's go. Get in the box. Okay, he's clearly a rabbit, though. He did say hop in the box, so I guess there's that. Okay. Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. So this is effectively Yakuza 7.5. Or Like a Dragon 7.5, whatever way you want to look at it. The trailer gives nothing away. It is entirely a cutscene conversation between these two guys, and I feel like it goes over almost everybody's head because you don't know what the hell they're talking about. But this is Kazuma Kiryu, who was the main character of all of the Yakuza games up until Like a Dragon 7. Or Yakuza Like a Dragon, effectively. So what's interesting here is the term Gaiden in a Japanese title means non-canon. So anytime you've seen a game and it's whatever the name of the game is, and then Gaiden means it's like not part of the main story. It's an offshoot thing. It may or may not be canonical, but it is like not considered part of the main plot. So this is a side story, effectively, is what they're saying. There has been a trailer for Yakuza 8 or Like a Dragon 8, where Kazuma Kiryu and the main character from the last game are teaming up. So the idea with this game is it's, why is he back? Why is he back in the series? This is kind of a, catch you up. What's he been doing this whole time? Little Witch in the Woods is a chill Stardew Valley type game. Is currently in early access on Steam. This will be coming to PC and Xbox. Probably will be on the Game Pass. This is a debut title from Sunnyside Up. So effectively you are the titular little witch in the woods, going about your witchy business. You make potions for the townsfolk. You cast spells to fix things out in the environment. You catalog the things that are in the forest. I believe the deal is you're like a novice witch and you're like learning the tools of the trade kind of thing. But I don't think you're an evil witch. I don't think that's the deal. I think you're like a nice witch or whatever. But as you can see, it's a very cute game. It's very much in the same vibe as something like Stardew Valley. So like a chill, fun time thing. where you can just, sit on the couch and play it on your handheld or what have you. Actually, you won't be able to do that because it's PC and Xbox, but that's the kind of thing. You want to be an evil witch? I mean, I say it doesn't seem like she's an evil witch. She might be an evil witch, but I don't think so. I think she's meant to be a good witch. Oh well. You attack cute birds, though. I think you're befriending them, like Pokemon, You just hit them with the Pokeball? That's fine. It doesn't hurt them, right? Okay. Lollipop Chainsaw. So this actual particular trailer is for the original game, but there is going to be a Lollipop Chainsaw remake, allegedly, this year. Don't know when that's going to happen. I am going to really cut down the audio for that so I don't get a copyright strike. I have done a full Let's Play of the original Lollipop Chainsaw. It is actually my best performing videos are all Lollipop Chainsaw videos for whatever reason. Probably because nobody can get their hands on it anymore. And that is kind of the idea behind the remake in the first place, is because you just can't get the game anymore. So they're remaking it. So it's from Suda51, and then perhaps James Gunn is probably well known now. He wasn't particularly well known when the game came out the first time. Probably know him better now for Guardians of the Galaxy. But before he got in with Marvel and now with DC, he was better known for like schlocky horror grindhouse stuff, but with like a comedy bent to them. So like look up Slither from James Gunn. That's like a really, really good one. It's a good film, but it's also a good indication of what he's like before corporate got their claws into him, basically. But there's going to be a Lollipop Chainsaw remake at some point this year, allegedly. But unfortunately, we haven't seen a trailer or anything about it, so who knows. The Lords of the Fallen, not to be confused with Lords of the Fallen, is effectively an entire reboot of that whole thing. You can more or less just say, you remember that last game? Yeah, don't. It never existed. Ignore it. The Lords of the Fallen is a Souls game, effectively. The original Lords of the Fallen was also a really bad Soulsy game. This, however, is actually by a completely different developer. This is by Hexworks. And Hexworks have made nothing, actually. This is their debut title. So this will be interesting to see how they handle it. What I'm really interested in is, well, one, the original trailer was really cool. But from what I've seen from their art direction, your game looks interesting. Beyond its gameplay. I'm on board, more or less. There's some kind of mechanic with this lantern, and I don't really understand it yet, as it's not really been made clear, but there seems to be some kind of mechanic with it. But it is otherwise a Souls type. The enemy designs look incredible. The world design is really interesting, so I really want to know how the game plays. The character they're showing off there seems to only have the one kind of weapon set or whatever. It's not clear if, the way other Souls games, you have like different builds and stuff like that. It's not clear if that will be the case in this or if you're just that character. But then again, the Souls games have like canonical builds, characters and what have you, but you could still do whatever you wanted. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is by Simogo. I think that's what their name is. Simogo. Simogo are the people behind Sayonara Wild Hearts, which was a kind of twitchy rhythm music game, essentially. It was a really, really fun title, but this is somewhat in keeping with their art style. It's very, moody, very subdued. There's also a dog there who looks incredible, so I am obviously on board. But yeah, I'm here for its aesthetic, as usual. Art direction. If your game has interesting art direction, I will play it. That is how it works. That is our deal. That is the contract I have made with video games. If your game looks interesting, I will play it. Miasma Chronicles. This trailer is a full CG thing as well. But some other gameplay that has come out from it. It's going to be a current gen thing. It's by the developers The Bearded Ladies, who are responsible for Mutant Year Zero, which was a kind of anthropomorphic animals XCOM deal, like a strategy title. Miasma Chronicles appears to be a Western Western punk Full Metal Alchemist. Seems to be what they're going with. There's like, I'm trying to resurrect somebody from the other world. One of my arms is fucked up, and my brother is a giant automaton. You know, it couldn't be any more Full Metal Alchemist if it tried. But otherwise, it's set in a sort of Western post-apocalypse steampunk deal. So we'll see how that plays out. Mina the Hollower is the next game from Yacht Club Games. So Yacht Club Games are the people behind Shovel Knight, and they have finally gotten sick of Shovel Knight, it seems, and they've decided to move on to another game. So if Shovel Knight was effectively, what if The Legend of Zelda was Castlevania? Alright, that's Shovel Knight. And Mina the Hollower is, what if Castlevania was The Legend of Zelda? So they just decided to swap them around. That's effectively what they're going with here. Mina the Hollower is, again, much like Shovel Knight was, it's a Kickstarter title, which, again, disclosure, I have backed. So I'm like, Shovel Knight is an incredible game. I can't imagine Mina the Hollower will be anything less. Yacht Club Games have, you know, precedent for making really, really good games and also supporting their games for a really long time. And this gameplay that from Mina the Hollower is really interesting, and that she can like dive into the ground and pop up behind enemies, and that kind of deal. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how that turns out. Mina the Hollower is currently PC only, but again, Shovel Knight is on basically everything now, so I imagine it will be much the same. After Mina the Hollower is 9 Years of Shadow. So people who have been on this channel for a while, or for the last year or so, know that I have been like nearly 2 weeks away from playing this game for like 6 months or something, because it just keeps getting pushed. It just keeps getting delayed. It's so fucking annoying because I just want to play it. So I'm going to skip a little bit ahead because a lot of this trailer is just black and white. But eventually you get to a part where color shows up. I think it's this bit. It's when this little teddy bear guy shows up. This little teddy guy is effectively your ranged option. He's like ranged attacks and stuff, and you deal with the melee attacks. I'm just like everything about this design. It's super colorful. The main character looks interesting. It's pretty rare you see a halberd used as a main weapon, so that's kind of also something I'm looking at. And again, movement options. Your different armor gives you lots of different movement options. So your water armor is like, gives you like a fishtail. Your earth armor lets you kind of bounce against different walls and stuff like that. And then the fire armor gives you like a sort of rocket attack, but then you also have a kind of short range glide with it as well. So I'm like, yes, show me more of this, please. And I really wish it would. It's been delayed multiple times now. So I'm really hoping that this time it'll come out. It'll come out this year and everyone will be happy about it. Okay. Moving on. Hey, Doom Training, how's it going? Not too bad. We're coming to the end of this now. So, Oxenfree 2, Lost Signals. So, Oxenfree, if you're not familiar with it, is a somewhat narrative title. It's set on a kind of remote US village, kind of tourist village that is like kind of winding down, hasn't seen a lot of tourists in a very long time kind of thing. The original Oxenfree, you were kind of celebrating the end of the school year with a bunch of your friends. You went to this abandoned island, only to discover that it's Stranger Things. Stranger Things, basically. It's Stranger Things, the video game, before Stranger Things was a thing. So if anything, Stranger Things is Oxenfree, the TV show. But anyway, Oxenfree 2 just follows along the story. There's some kind of strange demonic invasion happening. But it's good shit. Pepper Grinder? No, why have you gone back to the start? Why have you done this? Why do you do this to me? One sec. Let's see if I can fix this. Okay, no, it just wants to stop at Oxenfree. It's really annoying. All right, anyway. Pepper Grinder is shown off again during one of the... Actually, it might have been the Game Awards. So what I'm interested in here is just the... Again, the movement options for the character is that they're almost constantly in motion, just jumping from like a diggable area, like interactions with the environment, how combat works with this drill weapon that they have. It just looks... It looks like one of those games where it's like you'll be like restarting to try to get the correct line through the level so you can just do it all in one go. And that just seems really cool to me. Also, they have this weird Cyclops guy. Okay, after that is Pragmata. So Pragmata from Capcom, it's going to be a new IP for Capcom, which is pretty rare. I'm going to skip ahead on this trailer because it takes a while to actually get going. So running in the Resident Evil engine, so it's going to look super pretty. But you are mysterious astronaut man from the future, probably, who has a portable 3D printer type deal. And it seems you are looking for this girl, maybe. I think she's some kind of robot child, but I guess we'll find out. Holographic cats and that kind of thing. Just making sure I don't mention he, she who shall not be named. So you're here to rescue this child, but shenanigans are happening, as you can probably see in the background. It's like strange twists of architecture. Things are not exactly as they seem. Even if this holographic cat should tell you immediately that things are not as they seem, this probably tells you some shit's happening here. Because, surprise, you're in a simulated world. You're actually on the moon. So some strange shit happens. Anyway, how much of this actually happens in the game? Debatable. But this child seems to be able to interact with your 3D printer to just make things that you need exactly when you need them, kind of like Bioshock Infinite type deal. It's also not clear if it's going to be a third-person game, first-person game. I have a feeling because Resident Evil is gone back to third-person, that they probably will go with third-person for this as well, but I guess we'll see. Anyway, how much of this actually happens in the game? Debatable. Pragmata was actually meant to come out this year, but it was delayed into 2023. So as you can see here at the very end of the trailer, we're like, hey, wait a minute, that's not Earth. That's Earth. Freedom. Anyway. Our freedom. Pragmata. I guess we'll see it hopefully next year at some point. Why is YouTube being very strange to me? Everything's falling apart. Why? Okay. Raven's Watch. So Raven's Watch is currently going to be PC and PlayStation 5 only. Developed by Tech Games. The last game they made is Curse of the Dead Gods, which was a sort of roguelike dungeon crawler type game, which is actually really, really good. Raven's Watch is kind of a Grimm's Fairy Tale Diablo. So you've got like Little Red Riding Hood, who's also the big bad wolf. You've got the Pied Piper, who actually can control rats instead. So he's like a plague bearer. You've got Beowulf, who has somehow become bound to the dragon that he was supposed to kill. And you've got Elsa, who's just Elsa, basically. Looking at some stuff from the developer, more characters are going to be added as things go on. But I guess we'll see from that. Gameplay-wise, you can see it's like isometric action RPG, so Diablo. Cooperative, at least, because you can have multiple characters running at the same time. And as is even mentioned in the trailer, other characters will come to answer the call. So Raven's Watch is allegedly going to be out next year at some point, so that will be interesting. I'm also like super interested to know who the other characters are, basically. And what other, alterations they make so that they fit into a Diablo light. I am just going to delete this picture instead. Yep, go away. Okay, we'll just go with TBC. Right. Okay, Replaced. Replaced has been shown off a couple of times. It's going to be an Xbox and PC exclusive, so probably a Game Pass exclusive thing. It's developed by Sad Cat Studios. This is their debut title, and it looks gorgeous. Again, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit in the trailer. I mostly just want to get to the part where the music kicks in. It looks gorgeous. And as I've already said, I am under contract with the video games industry to play games that look good. I can't, there's nothing I can do about it. I don't know when I signed that contract, but that seems to be what happens. Whether the game ends up being good or not, I have to do it. What really drew me in, even from the art style, what drew me in is how the combat works. The camera kind of lurches with you as you move, which is super interesting to me. And then, of course, the music kicks in, and it's amazing. There's one particular bit, like this, other than the game just looking gorgeous. I'm actually going to tone down the audio a little bit. It's a bit loud. This bit. So watch, he jumps over this shield and then shoots him, and it's like, incredible. I need to play this right now. So that's why it's on the list, basically. Right, after Replace, we have Skim, which is nowhere near as like crazy violent, cool, super pumping music thing. Skim is an interesting puzzle game. A puzzle game maybe many of us have played when we were younger, where we would try to like see if we could move only in the shadows, like as children. Maybe that was just me. But that's kind of what Skim's deal is. You're just only allowed to move in the shadows. And you have different like objectives to try to complete in the level, a bit like Untitled Goose Game, where Untitled Goose Game had things for you to do. Unlike Untitled Goose Game, I don't think you're meant to be a menace. Exactly. I think you're just meant to be like trying to complete objectives, trying to like get people to interact with each other or get to a particular shadow or something like that. It's been in development for a good long time now. Skim is allegedly going to be released on absolutely everything. It's developed by a single developer named Edward Vanderwerf. I was already a vampire. Yep, I'm only allowed to move through shadows. That's all I'm allowed to do. But yeah, I think it'll be an interesting like puzzle mechanic, and I'm curious to see how it plays. You know, how he's able to get a bunch of puzzles working with it. After that, Sea of Stars is another title that, again, was meant to come out this year, but was pushed into next year. So Sea of Stars is by Sabotage. There, as you see in the trailer there, it's the people behind The Messenger. The Messenger was a incredible throwback to the Shinobi games, or the original Ninja Gaiden games. And Sea of Stars seems like it's going, hey, remember Chrono Trigger? You guys like Chrono Trigger, right? Let's do Chrono Trigger again. That seems to be what they're doing with it here. It looks gorgeous, and as usual, if the game looks good, I have to play it, and I don't get a choice. And that's kind of it to it. It's got this kind of formation setup for combat that like Chrono Trigger used, and like it's not just everyone's in a line and you fight. You can be anywhere on the map. And there seems like there's some interesting combat mechanics there as well. Skipping ahead, though, to the next game. You ready? Did that? Skip ahead. Slither ahead. I'm way behind on our numbers. I should be at 77. Okay, Slitherhead by Boker Studios. So these are people who would have been behind Silent Hill, would have been behind Fatal Frame, Resident Evil, a lot of horror games, basically, Evil Within, that kind of thing. There's all former devs of all of those titles. It's pretty gross. Gameplay-wise, again, we don't know too much of how it's going to play. From what it seems like, they're not really going for the horror element exactly. They seem like they're more going for a kind of action element, in that you'll, you know, actually be required to fight these horrible creatures rather than run away from them. But this is the only trailer we have seen from the game so far, and this is almost 2 years old at this point. So it's still slated to come out next year. Music by Akira Yamaoka, who's probably best known for Silent Hill. So I guess we'll see how that turns out. Gross. Okay, anyway, that's Slitherhead. Disgusting. Right, Spoderman. Marvel's Spoderman 2. We only have... That 737 was flying pretty low. Yeah, I think the wake of that just by itself would have, like, knocked down all of those buildings. But anyway, don't ask questions. Right, Marvel Spider-Man 2. All we have seen of the game so far is this one trailer that was last year's PlayStation Showcase. Fun fact, we didn't get a PlayStation Showcase this year, which is a little concerning, because what's on Sony's schedule? All we really know is this, pretty much, for their first-party titles. So that's not good. Anyway, CG trailer. I believe it's Craven who's talking in the background. Craven the Hunter, who kind of goes around trying to hunt, like, the most difficult prey in the world, and he feels like Spider-Man will be a really interesting prey for him. But there's an additional wrinkle, because it's not just 2 Spider-Mans. It's 3 Spider-Mans. And one fun thing is the voice of the original Candyman is doing the voice of Venom. So he'll be suitably creepy. But we don't know when that's coming out. Sorry, we know it's coming out next year. But other than that, we've no idea when it's coming out. When next year? Don't know. Okay. As I mentioned, a lot of the games that are on this list are probably going to get pushed into 2024. If one of them is definitely going to get pushed into 2024, it's this one. Starfield, which is a new IP from Bethesda, so the guys behind the Elder Scrolls, the newer Fallout titles. They're effectively doing Elder Scrolls in space. Is more or less what Starfield's going to be, or Fallout in space, whatever way you want to look at it. This is the CG trailer because the gameplay trailer is like 10 minutes long, so I didn't want to put that in. Anyway, what can we say about Starfield? Not a whole lot. We haven't seen too much gameplay. The gameplay we have seen is very curated to not show off what I'm sure are a billion bugs that are in the game, because that's how Bethesda rolls. What is interesting is it was meant to come out in November of this year, but shortly after the merger between Bethesda and Microsoft, it was pushed back. And my belief is Bethesda are okay with releasing an unfinished game and effectively doing a year of public QA, but I don't believe Microsoft are okay with that. So I have a feeling Microsoft have put some manners on them, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't, you can't put it out like this. You know, put some effort in, please. It's also important to note that the last game Bethesda made is Fallout 76. And when that launched, it was absolute garbage. Even now, it's like, it's playable now. It's not quite absolute garbage now, but it's not exactly amazing either. So you can see here, like, it was meant to be 11th of November 2022, and it didn't happen. Automaki, I hope they did. Yeah, I hope Microsoft were like, you know, well, boys, fix your bugs. We can't pay the entire public to do QA for us. Anyway, whether that, I have a feeling that'll get pushed back, though, to be honest. Okay, Stellar Blade, previously known as Project Eve. So this is developed by Shift Up Corporation, and the last game they made is a mobile title called Nike, Goddess of War. And if you look that up, you will notice it is an extremely horny mobile title. Somebody seems to have a fetish for anime girls and gun recoil. Hopefully it doesn't, I say hopefully, I'm somewhat hopefully it does make its way into this game. But hopefully it doesn't make its way into this game. Stellar Blade looks like it's some kind of post-apocalypse to humanity. Humanity has been effectively reduced to like sub 100,000 people or something like that. And we are trying to like ensure that the rest of them don't die or something like that. It's not clear if we are actually human. I think we're some kind of bioengineered super entity or something like that. Oh my, indeed, Automaki, indeed. So again, I'm going to skip ahead in this trailer to some gameplay, and you'll get the idea that it's sort of a high speed Souls. So it's pretty twitchy. Maybe it might be a bit closer to something like Sekiro rather than Souls. But again, it looks really good. The combat looks like satisfying. It's kind of twitchy. It has an interesting story setup, to me at least. So I'm kind of curious how it will play. Stellar Blade is currently exclusive to PC and PlayStation right now. PlayStation 5 specifically. So we'll see how that works out. A previous trailer did actually have you doing spacewalks as well. So you might be spending some amount of time out in space. Unholy, I haven't skipped ahead on the numbers, it should be 81. Unholy is another game that has been coming out for a while and has gone through a bunch of different iterations, but it is a first-person psychological horror type thing where you put on the mask, and if you're not Jim Carrey, you have a really bad time, it turns out. That's kind of all we know about the game. I think it's going to be like an Amnesia type, or maybe an Outlast type game, but it's got like fantastical imagery, whereas Amnesia and Outlast were kind of somewhat stuck in the real world. So I'm kind of more interested in the fantastical element to it. But we'll see how that goes. And before Henry Cavill explains all of Warhammer to you, you have the opportunity to get in ahead of everybody else and say you liked Warhammer before it was cool and play Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. So the idea with... Now, I'm not a Warhammer super user, super nerd. I don't know too much about them. I do know that the Space Marines you're playing here are the Ultramarines, I think, who are some kind of somewhat a genetic clone of the Eternal Emperor or something like that. But the idea with the Ultramarines is that they don't back down, they don't take cover, they don't, retreat or anything like that. They just go forward and destroy the enemies of man kind of thing. So they're like, as he's saying in the trailer, basically, they're just there to decimate the enemies of man kind of thing. And it looks just like a nice, fun, stupid hack 'em up, shoot 'em up thing. And Space Marine 1 was exactly like that. Space Marine 2, it seems like, is also going to be exactly like that. And then the very last game for 2023 that I'm going to look at least is The Wolf Among Us 2. It is not a sequel to Among Us. It is a sequel to The Wolf Among Us, in fact. The Telltale series that focused on the Fables comic book series, just why it has a comic book look to it. The idea is effectively the Fables have been somewhat jettisoned into our world, and they are just trying to live amongst humanity without giving themselves away kind of thing. So you've got people like Red Riding Hood, Snow White, Hansel and Gretel, Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, that kind of thing. But then you also have the Big Bad Wolf. That's who you play as. You play Bigby, aka the Big Bad Wolf, who is a private detective / keeps the Fables in line kind of thing. Stops them from using their abilities or drawing attention to themselves and that kind of thing. He's the enforcer, if you like, of the Fable universe. And basically, he's trying to sort of make amends for being the Big Bad Wolf he's the Big Bad Wolf. Anytime he showed up in any of the Fable stories, it was him, specifically. So he's trying to, keep the wolf down, try to keep people, in line, keep to yourself, don't give away our presence and that kind of thing. But he's not good at that because he has anger issues, and sometimes the wolf comes out kind of thing. The Wolf Among Us 1, I have not finished, so look to see that on the channel at some point. So yeah, just the Wizard of Oz characters are being dealt with here. I believe the deal is the Cowardly Lion is actually dead, I think, in this universe. But yeah, I'm going to let the rest of this trailer play because it's a pretty cool scene. So it's like,
How does the anger manifest itself?
what happens when he gets very angry. Anyway, so what's interesting there is The Wolf Among Us was a Telltale series game. and Telltale obviously went defunct quite some time ago, and was like their IP was sold off and recuperated by a couple of people. So somebody, LCG Entertainment, bought the rights to both Batman, the Telltale series, and The Wolf Among Us. So they've, I think, ported the Batman series to modern consoles. I'm not sure they've done the same thing to The Wolf Among Us. We'll have to check that out. Anyway, we can leave a game to play in the background while I sum up, I think. So what will we leave to play in the background? What game am I looking forward to the most, I suppose? Well, it's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but I don't want to look at the trailer for that. So what will we play in the background? What do you guys want to see in the background? Let's play the Armored Core one in the background, because that's a nuts trailer. Full screen when you're ready. Don't want it? Thinking about it? There you go. Full screen. Okay. Anyway, so those are the games that at least I am looking forward to in 2023. Some of them may or may not show up on the channel. I suppose it depends rather heavily on if I have played the previous game or not. So looking into that, I have like a list of games to prepare for it, effectively. It's like, I need to play the original Alan Wake, the Arkham series, Armored Core, Breath of the Wild, the original Dead Space, Diablos, Hyper Light Drifter, original Resi 4, Space Marine, Spider-Man, Star Wars Fallen Order, System Shock, original Wolf Among Us, the entire Yakuza series. So there's like a lot of shit I need to get through before I can get to these games. Final Fantasy VII Afterbirth? No. Gross. Is that what the third one's going to be called? Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is what the sequel to the remake is. And then the third one will probably be Reunion, which is a term that's used a lot in Final Fantasy VII. So that's what I think the third game will be called. So some games that could have been included, but I left them out because I personally don't have much interest in it. Now, there's the one that won't be named for obvious reasons. But then there's also Arc Raiders, which is by Embark Studios. These guys who are formerly from... no worries. Formerly from the Battlefield. They're making a somewhat of a PvE thing where you take on giant mechs that fall down from the sky. But because it's all multiplayer, I'm not going to touch it. Exoprimal is effectively Anthem, but dinosaurs. So it's like a team of 4 versus another team of 4, and then there's like hordes of dinosaurs in the arena with you. And its presentation is really, really good. But again, it's multiplayer. I'm not going to touch it. Pikmin 4 is also going to be out next year at some point, which is a somewhat of a team management thing where you have different colored tiny guys who all have different abilities to help you deal with giant monsters kind of thing. Let's go Armored Core. Absolutely, Doomsday Inc. Pikmin for Melvin. Pikmin is not a series I ever really got into, but I know it's a big deal for people who really like Pikmin. So I thought I would put it in as a I don't know, honorary mention type deal. Redfall, which is a vampire Left 4 Dead, effectively. The thing about Redfall, now I like vampire stuff, right? There are a ton of vampire games on the channel, which would probably suggest I really like vampire games. I do, but I don't like vampire games where the enemies are vampires. I want to be the vampire. I don't want to be against the vampires. And Redfall, you are against the vampires, so that's immediately, I don't want to play it. But it's also like a 4-player Left 4 Dead, Back 4 Blood type deal. That's what it feels like, at least. We haven't really seen like unedited gameplay of it yet. And I don't know 3 other people who want to play Redfall, so that's the end of that. And then there's like 2 really pretty big fighting games as well. Street Fighter 6 has been getting some great critical praise. And Tekken 8 similarly has been getting some great praise. So again, fighting games, I like to look at them. I like to watch them. I don't like to play them. So that's, again, why they're not on the list. And then finally, there are some games that we just don't have a date for them, but I know they're coming. Like, we know the developers are working on them. So Death Stranding 2, which is shown off at the Game Awards, we don't have a date, but we know it's in development. It's not going to be next year, though. Doka V, which is effectively legally distinct Pokemon. The only good vamp is a crispy one. How dare you, Doomsday? Doka V is effectively legally distinct Pokemon. And it looks incredible, but we haven't heard anything about it in a good while. So it potentially could come out next year. Because it looked like it was most of the way there, and the small amounts of development we've seen. Dragon Age 4, again, the developer has been talking about it, but they're still only really showing off concept art stuff. We have seen no gameplay. So I'm not confident that'll be out next year. This is in alphabetical order, so Half-Life 3, it could still happen, guys. It could still, it might happen. Hellblade 2, Senua's War, is in development with Ninja Theory. It's been in development for a while. They have shown off some stuff a couple of times, so it's like that should be out next year. I feel like it should be, but again, we don't have a date for it, so I don't know. There are a bunch of Silent Hill games that were announced recently. Some of them might be out next year. I have a feeling Silent Hill 2 Remake may be the end of the year. Star Wars Eclipse, which is the Quantum Dream, what's his name? The Heavy Rain guy. The fuck's his name? French guy. Oops, I made the bad game. What's his name? Anyway, the Star Wars Detroit Become Human, effectively. Again, we know it's in development. We just don't know when. And then we know that Insomniac, the guys behind Spider-Man, are also working on a Wolverine title. But again, no release date. We're looking at Assassin's Creed Mirage here. I do like that section where they draw the feather across the face, that there's something in there with him now. Like, that's intriguing. Because that always seemed like it was a safe space for the assassins. That'll be interesting. But anyway, that is the list for 2023. As well as some games that I am aware of, but either I don't have personal, particularly any interest in it, or we don't have a specific 2023 date for the game. There are some other games, Monster Hunter Rise, which is already out, but that is also getting ported to PlayStation and Xbox, which I'm really interested to play, but it's not a new game, so I wasn't going to bring it up. And Atelier Ryza 3, which is a alchemy JRPG type thing that I think only I care about, so I wasn't gonna bother bringing it. Super Mario Bros. 2 to the list.
In the ruins of this shattered,
The game, or games for me to play? This is the film, I suppose. That's out next year too. Anyway, okay, I was supposed to loop these videos. We've moved into Atlas Fallen, which probably won't be that great. Anyway, that's it for the list. Elsewhere into 2023, for my channel at least, Doom Train Inc. wants Super Mario Bros. 2. I am thinking of doing the Final Fantasy series, because I've never played anything before. Oh, you think there's rumors of a new Super Mario Brothers 2? Okay, interesting. I have been thinking of doing the Final Fantasy series, because I haven't played any of the Pixel versions, 1 to 6. So I would like to play them, and then it would also give me an excuse to play Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I have been struggling with internally to play, because I really want to play it, but I'm also... I don't want to be in a bad mood when I play it, I guess. I don't know. I have a weird hang-up about that game. Anyway, I've also been thinking of doing the Yakuza series at some point, because they're all games that I feel like I would like, but I've just never played. The only one I've played is Like a Dragon, which I did really like. And I played Judgment, which technically isn't technically is in Yakuza. So anyway, and we'll be continuing the Resident Evil series as well. It's just whether Resident Evil 4 Remake happens earlier than I had planned, or if I stick to the schedule and it's much, much later instead. Leaker doubles down. Sorry, Melvin's just sent me a message. Leaker doubles down on claim that a new 2D Super Mario game is coming. Okay. So, like Super Mario's Deluxe kind of thing? Anyway, it's possible, I suppose. But again, rumors. Half-Life 3 was only on that for a laugh, mostly. Otherwise, I'm kind of only going with games that I know for definite. Like the developer has said, yeah, we're definitely making it. Here's some stuff about it. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you guys think, comments-wise, or over on Twitter, or hang about for tomorrow's stream. I'm going to try to finish Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song in the next stream. And then we'll be moving on to Resi 2 on Saturday. Probably finish that. And then hopefully we'll have all new Let's Plays for 2023. What we do first, I don't know. I'm thinking the original Dead Space, because I'd like to play that before the remake comes out. I had a quick playthrough of it on the Steam Deck to make sure it worked, and it does. It works fine. There's some things I need to fix around analog stick sensitivity and stuff like that, but I think it'll work fine. So I think Dead Space, but otherwise I'm not sure yet. Anyway, thanks for dropping in, Melwin, Doomtrain Inc., Automakai. It's always appreciated to have people in the chat with me when I do these things. Appreciate you guys dropping in. I'm really annoyed that the art thing broke around Oxenfree. I have to check. It must only be able to keep so many in memory, and then it stops. So I'm curious what number Oxenfree was. That might be a thing. Anyway, because the same thing happened when I did the 2022 video. It stopped updating. So I'll have to have a look at that. And yes, the trailer is in 144p for some reason. Because again, this guy needs to update his OS. Anyway, it's a very funny game. Play the demo. Or back firewall. Anyway, I'm going to head off. Have a good rest of your evening, everybody. Thanks again for jumping in, Melwin, Automakai, Doomtrain Inc. And hopefully see some of you tomorrow for Swan Song. Have a good one, everybody. I'm going to go before that trailer starts. Bye-bye. Thank you.